Hello, I am Emiliano Perez, and this is my professional communication speech. Today we're going to be talking about the origins of the stereotypical superhero, my informative speech. The origins of the superhero can be traced back to places like ancient Greece, with heroes like Hercules and Achilles. But you can say that the precursor to the modern day superhero starts from the mid 1800s or the earliest 20th century. Characters like the Three Musketeers, Zorro, and the Shadow. These pulp heroes are considered to be the modern, or at least ancestors to the modern day superhero. The origins of the first true modern day superhero, if you will, is Superman in 1938 by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, who first appears in Action Comics #1. And the other most famous one was, of course, Batman by Bob Kane and Bill Finger in 1939, who first appears in Detective Comics 27, which will later become DC, of course. But specifically, I want to talk about the meaning behind the cape and why superheroes look the way they do, or at least the idea of one. So what's the origin of the cape? Traditionally, a cape was a symbol of royalty. It showed that you had power, that you were part of something great. Kings, queens, dukes, knights, people like that wore capes, and usually the stereotypical knight, vampire, and of course superhero wear capes to show their power. And sometimes you can say sometimes a cape does have a meaning and a further purpose, but for the most part they're just there for aesthetic purposes. And what about the skin-tight suits and the trunks? So it's said that for Superman, the biggest inspiration for Superman were strongmen, circus strongmen, which were basically weightlifters, and they were known for wearing skin-tight suits for ease of maneuver, and who wore capes once again to show their power and royalty, and simply just to look cool, spandex and to move. And as for the trunks, they most likely wore those outside of their suit for private reasons. Having a skin-tight suit can be quite revealing sometimes, so you can say that they wore trunks to add an extra layer of protection against those certain areas. So that kind of makes sense. What about superheroes in modern times, like new superheroes that wear stuff? Surprisingly, even in the early times, not that many heroes wear capes. For example, Green Lantern used to wear a cape, but he was changed. And usually the only superheroes that usually wear capes are meant to be rip-offs or meant to be inspired by already existing heroes, mostly Superman and Batman. Characters like Moon Knight, One Punch Man, Omni-Man, Homelander, all of those superheroes, they're original characters, but are meant to be like riffs and inspired by already existing characters. They're not like their own individual characters. They're meant to be like inspired by Superman or Batman. They're not really their own separate thing. They have the same power levels and are meant to be their Superman of their world. I think I'm making myself clear. So yeah, I'm also going to throw my own personal favorites. Some of my favorite Superman ripoff, if you will, is the Sentry and Hyperion from Marvel Comics. I love them, and they wear skin-tight suits, trunks, capes, but they're basically the stereotypical superhero with the big letter on their chest or on their belt. In conclusion, whether they wore them to show, because another reason why superheroes wore capes was to show where they were moving, because it was very hard to show movement in early comics. So a way they would do that was with flowing clothing, cloths, and stuff like that, to show whether they were royalty for ease of movement. Skin tights allow for better movement, or to simply show that they were muscular, that they were strong and capable of stuff. They wore these since the very beginning literally since the very beginning. And I would say that for the most part, they simply wear these stuff just to look cool. Many people say that the trunks are, bad looking. I like the trunks. I personally, I'm a trunk fan, if you will. So yeah, So simple. Sometimes it just looks cool. You know, a cape just looks cool. Despite what many people say that it gets in the way and stuff. You know, they don't get it. You know, so that's my speech.